Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. It's been an interesting 24 hours. Kind of key you in what happened. So I was having basically a covered porch extension built on my house, and the contractors cut into part of the roof to put it in, and then the roofers didn't come. They covered it with tarps, and then we had like 4 inches of rain in 2 hours. So like part of my house, all the walls are like full of water right now. So I was up all night, basically trying to stop my house from being destroyed by a like aerial flood. So that was interesting. And so if I haven't been around, that's partly why. I was also out of town for a couple days. Went and saw the eclipse. Drove up to Dallas for that, and that was a pretty awesome experience. Definitely something that, there's a lot of experiences that is seeing it in person better than seeing it on like video. Not necessarily, right? A lot of times you go to concerts, you sit in the back, you can't even see the performers, and you see them on a big screen. It's like, why not just watch it on TV at that point? That is not the case with the eclipse. Like, the eclipse was definitely an in-person live event. You had to be in it to really experience it. So it's definitely cool. So that's where I was those last couple of days. And then, trying to stop my house from being destroyed. So I got to deal with all of that stuff. It wasn't like the whole roof was off, just like the edges of the roof. But that allowed all the water, even with the tarps, to like go into the walls. So had ceilings destroyed, walls destroyed. It's going to be a whole thing. Today we're going to talk about drafting on the Writestream. That is the part where you actually, write the book. So what most people think of as writing a book is the drafting phase. I talk about 4 phases of book creation. There is the planning phase, which I talked about last time, drafting phase, which is phase 2, which we're going to talk about today. And then there's the revision phase, which I've talked about. I get it's all out of order, which I did for some piece I was doing for the live write, the Sorcerer's Blood piece, I think. And then publication. And I talked about publication like a lot of weeks ago. So they're all out of order. I'm sorry for that. I should probably do them in order, but that's just the way it's worked. Is people have asked about, can you do like a whole thing on planning? It's like, yeah, we'll do a whole thing on planning. I will plan a story, and I will show you how I actually go about planning a story that I would write. So I did that. Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about drafting, and we'll do some live write, which is basically drafting. When I talk about doing practice as a writer, what I'm really talking about is the drafting part. The drafting is probably the most important phase. It's the phase that everyone associates with writing a book versus like planning a story, coming up with characters and places and all that kind of stuff. The planning phase is really important, and the better you do the planning phase, the easier the drafting phase is. And also, this is important, way easier revision phase. You're not going to have to go back and outline after the fact. I've had Brian Niemeyer on the show several times, and he says you're either outlining before you write the book or you're outlining after you write the book. So I prefer to outline before I write the book, and I'm there. And I showed you what kind of outline that I would do. Just some big areas of the story and an event sequence based on what characters are doing what. I don't usually get more specific than that with an outline because I like to have a lot of freedom for expression when I'm going into the micro. I don't want to feel like I am just operating. I don't want to feel like an operator of a machine. I want to feel like an artist. And so that means I need a lot of freedom for what I'm going to do in any given scene and what I'm going to emphasize in the way the characters are going to talk and where they're going to be and things like that. And I'll kind of do that as I go. I'm a jazz musician, among other things. And so I tend to like to do things live. That's part of my part of the thing that I want to do going forward is do more live stuff, live music, have the whole live music channel. In fact, that's what you're hearing right here is a live performance from the live music channel. So I'll link it in case you want to subscribe to that channel, or it's in the description box. So when it comes to drafting, I'm just going to give you some really basic advice for writing, doing the actual writing of the details of the story. This advice is not like E.B. White style kind of stuff. We can talk about that. And as we get deeper into what I'm going to talk about today, we can get into like the details, because that's really what we're talking about when we write the book. Is we're talking about the details, the story details that are there, the way that you write the prose, the way that you write the sentences, how you write the dialogue, how you format those things, how you describe things. You know, not just the big stuff of like setting characters, plot. That stuff's general and applies to everything. But when we're talking about writing prose, which I've done live as well, or writing dialogue, that's like the micro stuff. So when you're drafting a book, this is my practical advice, and I talk about this in the Keys to Prolific Creativity book, which I should always have it like close to, like, here, buy the book. You actually get it for free if you're on the Patreon. Everyone, I think, for any paid tier above $1, $1 will get you into the Discord server, which I haven't been active on in the last week because I've had all this crap going on, and like my house not doing great. Is this it? Yes. Okay. Here's some hardbacks. Yeah, you do hardbacks, baby. All right. Keys to Prolific Creativity. This is mostly focused on work habits, because this is the thing that everybody sucks at. You know, and I make this point. This can be a black pill or a white pill. It's like, think about how popular Twilight is. Read Twilight and think about how popular it is. Now, I don't think Twilight's bad, per se. But I know a lot of people that hate Twilight. And they think it's awful. They think the prose is awful. They think the story's awful. Well, that book's very popular. So there could be a black pill or a white pill for you. The black pill would be, me being good doesn't matter. And the white pill is, I don't actually need to worry about being great. I can just write the story that I want to write and find success that way. That's the white pill, right? That's the positive side of it. So don't get too black pilled because things that you think suck are popular, because you could write a crappy book and it could be popular. So do that. So yeah, put your preconceptions to the side about how long it takes to write or anything like that. You're gonna get better when you practice. So the biggest piece of advice, if you were gonna distill this all down, it is work every day. Do something every day on your project. Okay? So in the drafting phase, you will never get to the end of it unless you are working on it as close to every day as you can. There's people who do writing sprints. There's people who do the Michael Moorcock write a book in a week. I have done that. I've written like an epic book in a month before on the channel, just to show that you could do it, right? Walter B. Gibson, who wrote all the Shadow novels, and I'm trying to remember his real name, but it slips my mind. He'd write a book a month, at the minimum, sometimes a book a week. Robert Jordan would write books over his spring break when he was an English teacher. Okay, yes, you can write good and write quickly. The main thing is that you're working consistently. So I say work every day. Set a time for yourself that is going to be yours, where you can shut off the world and focus on your work. That's the best thing. That doesn't work for everyone. I have to work a lot in the margins, and I talk about this because if you have kids, and maybe those kids have, like with my kids, an somewhat erratic sleep schedule where they will wake up in the middle of the night and be unable to sleep, which is kind of what happened last night. It's why I didn't sleep. It's like I was up with my daughter. We were playing My Little Pony, right? And then, oh, this is a bad rainstorm. I should make sure that water's not coming in through these, through the tarps on the roof. And nope, it was coming in. Anyway. Yeah, so working in the margins is helpful, but the best thing is that you have a consistent time that you know is yours. So you know that that time is budgeted, whether it's 1 hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is. That's going to be your time that you're going to work. And you need to be productive during that time. So the other half of that is that I am a big fan of word count goals when it comes to drafting your book. We can have as many debates as we want over whether it's good or bad to have word count goals, or whether that stifles your creativity. But for most people who set a goal, a daily goal, that word count goal is the most effective kind of daily goal that you can set if you'd like to complete your project. If you don't care about completing your project and this is just a leisure activity that maybe you write 10 words, maybe you might write 500, whatever, then ignore that advice and do whatever you want to do. But if you're wanting to complete your project in a timely manner, set a word count goal. If you want to think about 1,000 words, so I recommend most writers, even if you're kind of new, if you're brand new, start with 500 because you may find that 500 is a struggle. But if you're a more experienced writer, 1,000 minimum. That 1,000 words, if you think about, a standard novel, a standard like fantasy novel is 100,000 words. If you're talking a literary fiction novel, it's like 60,000 words. That means you're finishing a book in 2 to 3 months worth of time, which is not that long, right? Most people never finish a book that want to. They say there's so many people that say they want to write a book, and most people never finish it. Why? Well, because they're not doing what I'm telling you to do. They're not working on it consistently. And I didn't just pick this up out of nowhere. This experience is from lots of things besides writing. So you could apply this to anything. If you are a musician, if you want to be a performer, you need to be working every day. If you want to be a composer, you need to be working on your music every day. Usually people are like, you need to practice 4 hours a day. I think it's better to have meaningful goals for your practice. I'm going to practice these measures and make them perfect. And I'm not walking out of this practice room until these 20 measures or whatever it's going to be, these 32 measures are really good, until they are ready, they are polished, right? Or I'm going to memorize this A section, right? You have a goal for your practice. So you have the same thing with writing. You have a goal for your writing session. I'm going to write 1,000 words. That 1,000 words will get you to your goal so much more quickly than if you're the kind of person that's like, I'm just going to spend 30 minutes with my work. Yeah, spending 30 minutes with your work. But the thing is, and I noticed this with musicians, they can get their guitar out and do nothing for 30 minutes. And, get their guitar out and they play the songs that they've known for 20 years. And that's them practicing. It's not practicing. You're not practicing unless you're doing something that you can't do yet. So you're not really writing unless words are going onto the page. So setting a word count goal, that's a big one. So number 1, try to set a time. At 8 o'clock, I'm going to work on a book. Number 2 is set a word count goal. My goal is to get to 1,000 words, because you'll focus. Even if you only have an hour, you're like, I got to write that 1,000 words in an hour. And that's not that hard. I've done it live a bunch of times, right? So live, I usually stream for like an hour, and I'm spend half the time chatting with people. And then I write 1,000 words in that span. So that's easy. That's an hour a day. Most people can commit to an hour a day for some activity they're really passionate about. So yeah, an hour a day, and then you have like 3 books a year that you've written if you're really consistent with it. And the better you get at it, the easier those 1,000 words are. And then you can up it. You can be like, I'm going to do 1,500, 2,000 words, right? Stephen King wrote 2,500 words a day when he was not retired, right? So he said he retired. His retirement was he went from 2,500 words a day to 1,500 words a day and goofing off the rest of the time as he got old. He doesn't really need to put out 5 books a year or whatever he was doing at his height, 3 books a year or something like that. That's the thing. So yeah, make it consistent and yeah, it'll get done. The better you are at planning, the less you'll have to do in the drafting phase and the revision phase, the easier it'll be. A lot of times people run into writer's block when they're just trying to put words on a page. And usually it's because they don't know what happens next. Now, this is pretty rare for me because I usually have the whole thing worked out. However, there's been books where I've stopped and I have second guessed what I've thought about doing. And I've gotten to that point in the story where I'm like, I don't think this is the right thing. I think I need to rework the plot. So I've done that multiple times where I've stopped, and rather than try to plow through and just write something, I'm like, okay, well, the next I'm gonna change this part, and then I need to work backwards, and I'm gonna change these things, and then sort of write the story in a new direction. I've done that multiple times, but the main thing is like you've got to do it consistently. Okay. All right. Hardwick says, I remember thinking that if other people got paid for writing such stuff, I might too. For I was sure I could write stories just as rotten as theirs. Edgar Rice Burroughs. Yeah, that's the white pill. It's like, man, this stuff sucks and it's popular. It's like, why can't I write some stuff that sucks that is also popular? You can look at it from two different directions if you want. So I choose kind of the more white-pilled one. And the other thing about thinking about Twilight is like Twilight is one of these books that was written for a target audience, and it spilled outside of that target audience. And so most of the people who hate Twilight aren't in the target audience. They're part of the spillover. They're part of the people that's like, my girlfriend read Twilight and I thought it was bad. My girlfriend drugged me to these Twilight movies and they sucked, right? I've still never seen the Twilight movies. It's like, wait, didn't you read the books and like do all this analysis? Yeah, I did. I don't really care about movies, man. Yeah. It's like, why don't you review, someone's like, why didn't you review Dune 2? I'm like, I reviewed Dune 1 and I didn't think it was good enough for me to bother seeing Dune 2. In the theaters, at least. It's just not worth my time. Like, to waste 4 hours of my day because I have to drive there and come back and I have to convince my wife to watch kids for 4 hours without me and just, it's enough. Like I have 2 hours here that I stream, but like that, and then like 4 hours of movies, and she doesn't want to go see Dune. She doesn't care about that. She hates movies like that. So it's always like this lonely experience going to the cinema. Let me go by myself to the cinema and sit in a chair and sit still for 3 hours next to strangers watching a movie and pay as much for that movie as I would pay for a whole month of a streaming service that it's going to be on in 3 months anyway. Right? Like, and then it's not comfortable. It's always too loud. The sound is always bad. I haven't heard good sound in a theater at this point in years. There's something always off. The sound calibration's always messed up. It's too loud, or it's too quiet, or the center channel's off. There's always something off. Like, the cinema is a worse experience in every way that I can think of compared to just sitting in front of my TV. I have a good TV, right? Sitting in front of my TV and just watching it there, Anyway, sorry for that digression. So let's kind of focus more on drafting. That's the big one. Make sure that you have a word count goal in mind. And if you have an outline, you have a plan. And every time you open up your word processor, or if you're going to write it in a notebook, cool, you can do that too. But yeah, anytime you open up Microsoft Word or whatever, you have an idea of what you're going to do for that writing session. And the hardest books that I've written are ones where I didn't plan enough, for sure. Where I thought I had done enough planning, but it was like, not really. I didn't really plan enough. You know what I mean? So pants writing is always going to make it more difficult. Other people will say, I can't get excited for writing if I know what I'm going to write. Okay. That's you. Good luck, But for people that are wanting to do this efficiently and finish a product and get it out, planning, stick to the drafting phase, do it every day. That's how you get things done. It's really all about the process and not so much about like having big goals or things like that. And it's just like anything else, just like practicing your guitar or whatever other instrument you play that you want to get practicing your violin or your piano, right? Same idea. It's the same thing as getting in shape or like bodybuilding or something, right? When you see a professional bodybuilder like go out on stage and he looks all shredded and stuff, what you're seeing is just the end point of a very long process. And the better that end point is the better that person has stuck to their process over time. They've been on their diet. Their diet was dialed in. They did their workouts correctly. They didn't miss their workouts. They rested enough. They did the right combination of drugs and didn't mess that up. All those sorts of things. And yeah, like we got to be honest about bodybuilding, but it's chemical warfare. But I enjoy bodybuilding from that point of view, is that you get to that end there and it is a singular moment that is the culmination of a very long process. And that's what it is when you hold a book in your hand. It's not like you just sit down and write a book. There's a long process that goes into actually finishing the book and it coming out as a product. And like you can hold it in your hands and read words and and see all the cool stuff in it. Sorry. Whoops. Those old notes are important too. As I'm doing the final edit for a novel, the notes on the plot and the original outline and revisions are important. Yeah, it keeps you centered. Keeps you, wait, what did I write here? And I have a list of characters. So if I'm drafting and I come up with a new character, I'm probably not going to have a character in an outline that's like an innkeeper or some peasant somewhere, or, you know, some guy working at a shop, you know, the spaceport attendant, right? But he might have a name. So I'll write his name down, you know, and who he is and what he's doing, so that I don't forget about who he is or what he's doing. I don't get confused about it. Whenever I create a new character, I write it down. And I think my next book will actually have a dramatis personae because I have so many characters. It's not on the level of a Steven Erikson novel where there's like 4 pages worth of characters, because like he'll have a book where, if you don't know who Steven Erikson is, he wrote the Malazan series. But the later books especially, they have a lot of characters. They introduce new characters, and they're using like every character from the previous 6 books makes like an appearance, including all of these gods and things like that. There's so many characters, but he's good at like sketching them out so you have an idea of like who these characters are. It's interesting. He's very good at it. But that's a lie. It's not on that level. But there's enough characters that I'm like, I need to write this down, because in some cases there might be a character that you only see like every like 100 pages or something. That character shows up again. So you know, that's that. You know, lifting weights, totally 1 hour a day, consistency is king. Yeah, just don't miss your workouts. You know, you have your plan, you stick to your plan, you do it. You have a diet, you stick to the diet, you do it, right? Like my weakness is always sticking to the diet, because I have kids and they're like, here's some candy. I can have some candy, right? Yeah, and you just eat some candy and it's good, right? I'm more of an Erikson type writer. At least people keep comparing me to him. So it depends what that means, right? I like Steven Erikson. Do you have any advice for dealing with drowsiness and brain fog? It makes it hard to focus on writing. So this is, let me give you some advice. So number 1 is look at when you're trying to do that. So that's number 1. Because we're not, you know, a daily cycle for a person. Everybody's different. Some people are morning people. They're really alert in the morning. Other people are really alert at night. I tend to be more mentally active and sharp once the sun goes down. I don't know why that is, but it's always been that way for me. I'm not a big morning person, even though my wife is like, you always like wake up cheerful. And I was like, boom, you're jump out of bed. I'm a high energy person. I'm not laid back. But I'm more focused, maybe because I'm more calm in the afternoon, right? In the morning, I'm more like getting my physical stuff going. So number 1 is look at when you're trying to write. So if you're trying to write at a time that you're naturally sleepy, try doing that at a different time. And maybe you won't have that. Maybe you just need a different schedule for what you're doing. So that's one. Here's another one is, let's say you can only really write at a specific time, you know, because of the limitations of the real world. You can only write at 6 o'clock in the evening, and that's when you're like really low. Try taking a power nap before that if you have time. I do that quite a bit. Like if I had time before this, I probably would have like laid down for 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes will give me like 6 hours of energy. I'm like good at that. Other people, not so much. If they lay down for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, then they'll be like foggy the rest of the day. So that's another one, right? You could give yourself a power nap. You can walk outside in the sunshine. That vitamin D, your body makes vitamin D and you'll feel more energized. This is actually more important if you have darker skin, right? I have pale skin. I can go out in the sun for like 15 minutes and just be loaded up on vitamin D. But if you have darker skin, if you have a darker skin tone, that's more protection from the sun. But that also means you need more sun exposure for your body to make vitamin D and to feel that kind of energy, that normal life energy you get from being out in the sun. So make sure you're getting sunshine. You'll feel less tired if you get sunshine. Versus like supplementing vitamin D. It's like before supplementing vitamin D, it's like, are you spending any time outside? You got to spend, I don't want to get skin cancer. It's like, don't get sunburns, right? Get some sunshine. Let your body do its natural thing. Just like your ancestors did. That can help. Just going out in the sunshine. Changing your caffeine consumption can help. And I'll give you 2 examples for how this can help. Number 1 is, using caffeine, using more caffeine, right? Just like drink coffee before you need to be awake and focused, and maybe that will help you. The other one is change how you drink your caffeine. So if you're a person, let's say you're writing at 6 o'clock at night and you wake up at 6 in the morning. So what a typical person will do, wake up for work at 6 in the morning, what do? They go get a cup of coffee and they down the coffee and kind of get their brain wired up for work. Skip the morning cup of coffee. Skip it and just deal with that kind of grogginess that lasts for a couple hours after you wake up. Then drink your coffee in the afternoon when you need the boost. This is something that I kind of figured out with bodybuilding again, was like waking up and drinking caffeine. Instead, what I did was I drank no caffeine and I ate nothing all day until I was about to go to the gym, in which case I took like no explode and had like a small meal, right? And then it was like laser focus for 6 hours straight, no matter what I did after that, right? So loading, like having, rather than having your caffeine spaced on the day, you don't do it in the morning and you just have like a mega dose when you need it. And that will allow you to use it more. But the thing is, most people use caffeine I want to say they abuse it, but like they use it in a suboptimal way. You get addicted to caffeine, and so you're just dosing it all day long. And I guess that's me today because I haven't slept. But you just kind of you're drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, you drink one in the afternoon, you drink one at lunch. You're just drinking coffee all day. My dad was like that. It's fine. But if you want to get that, if you want that caffeine to hit, if you want it to be effective, you should skip your morning coffee and instead drink your coffee when you need the focus. Okay, so there's another one that can help. For me, I'll tell you my routine that helps me to be like extra focused at night and wake up is if I'm tired, I will go work out. Even if I've worked out that day, just something else to do, right? Go out and lift some weights or hop on the treadmill or the bike for 20 to 30 minutes. That just kind of raising your heartbeat, getting your blood pumping and flowing, that will wake you up. It'll wake you up and get you energized to do other stuff. Just some light cardio, like 20 minutes. I always formatted my evening because that was the only time I really could devote a non-restricted amount of time to work. Like I could start working at midnight and work until my work was done, play a video game and go to sleep. That's like my routine. Or I start whenever I can get my kids to sleep. So it's kind of a variable start time, but I'll only drop the workout if it's like my kids have stayed up way too late. If it's like midnight already, I'll be like, okay, I will use that as the opportunity to skip the workout and give myself extra rest and instead work more directly. Okay, but let's say I get my kids to sleep and it's 10 or 11. I'll go out. I have a home gym, so that helps as well. If you don't want, just go run on the street, man. Just go slap on your sneakers and run around the block. Go run a couple miles and come back. And the main thing is you don't want to be like 100% super intense workout where you get done, you're like, right. But just a normal workout gets the body going, right? And that'll help dispel a lot of the brain fog. I've noticed as I've gotten older, I have less brain fog, but I think that's just because as you get older, you sleep less and you need less sleep. Maybe like your body just doesn't want to rest as much. It's harder to rest. So I don't get as much brain fog. I'm not sleepy all the time as I was. And so, and speaking of caffeine, before I like jump on and talk more about caffeine, I didn't drink anything other than like incidental caffeine, like the caffeine in like a soda during Lent. And that was a particular kind of struggle. My wife was hoping it would like improve my life. It didn't. It did not make it easier to sleep. Didn't help me get to sleep easier. Didn't help me wake up better. It did not improve my life in any way, shape, or form. It was just a struggle because I have a more intense schedule, so it just meant I was tired more often. But what I found is that there's a psychological effect to caffeine where you're like, I need it. for focus. And when I didn't have it, it's like, doesn't matter. I still have to do it. I still have to go lift weights, and I still have to go write my words, and I still have to do all the stuff for my business. So it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, if I can't focus, I just have to do it anyway, right? You kind of figure out that you don't really need the caffeine to do that stuff. And if you're like, I need it to work, you probably really don't. And most people, when you look at the way they consume caffeine, they're not really getting any kind of nootropic effect from it. They're not really staying more alert or awake than they would if they were just off of caffeine. So the best way to use caffeine is intentionally at those times where you're sleep deprived, or when you need that extra focus, and otherwise to not use it. That's the way that, like, I see bodybuilders use it. They're like, no coffee, no tea, pre-workout, and they only use the pre-workout if they're like sleep deprived. If they're like, man, I'm in a calorie deficit, I feel like crap, need me some of that No Explode. I need some of that Jack 3D. Give me that stuff. And then they go and hit the gym. They feel good about it. So yeah, that's my tips for brain fog. I don't have a lot of brain fog. Other people can probably say like this nootropic or that nootropic. The most potent nootropics that I know of are methamphetamine and nicotine. Okay, so most of the people that are trying to find nootropic effects for things, it's like you're just wanting to do meth. And that's what I get. So people are like, I'm going to take this nootropic so I can work all night. It's like, you should probably rearrange your life so that your work doesn't have to happen all night long and leave you completely exhausted and unable to function mentally or physically, right? If your schedule requires you to be a methamphetamine addict, it's time to rethink what you're doing. It's time to reorder your priorities. You cannot max all stats. You can't be doing everything good all the time, right? If you're like, man, I'm going to be 250 pound shredded bodybuilder. I'm going to write 10 books a year. I'm going to have a business that does this. I'm going to go out on dates 3 nights a week with different girls. And it's like, you're not going to be able to have that lifestyle. I'm going to have kids. It's like, no. You got to pick what's your priority. And my priority is my kids. My family is way higher priority than the stream or the books that I publish or the music that I come out with. The family is number one. Then it goes down from there, right? My family's important. My work is important, less important. My body is also important, but it's important in the context of those things, right? Why do I work out? Why don't I just eat? Man, fried chicken's good, man. I should just eat chicken tenders all day and French fries. Why don't I do that? That tastes good. Well, it'll kill me. That's why I want to be alive for my family in another 20 years. So I can't eat the chicken tendies all day. I can't eat rising pile of burgers all for me. Okay, can't do that. I would love to do that, right? I would love, if there was no consequence to eating, then yeah, I would eat like crazy and be 350 pounds. Can't do that, right? So you prioritize your body because it helps you do those other things versus people are like, my priority is my body because I just have a need to be athletic and be fit and look the best I possibly can be, right? Most guys that I know of who focus on their fitness, it is because they want to attract women. I've known so few men that's like, that they just have an innate drive to like be athletic or work out. It's almost always some sort of, it's cueing into their desire to attract the opposite sex, right? It's like, do women like makeup for its own sake? No, they like it for what it gets them. They like it for the context in which they have makeup. Sorry, let me grab the chat real quick. Late to the stream, but always happy to be able to catch it. I'm glad you're here. Does swinging my baby around count as exercise? It can. So I'll tell you some exercise I did the other week that like made me really sore was weeding. Okay, I have like a half acre lot. And I had gardeners, or I had a lawn service, and I learned this after the fact. A lawn service will put weeds all in your yard because they're mowing every lawn. And so it just spreads weeds. So I was like, I'm going to have to pull these weeds up. Right? If you want to get rid of the weeds, you can't just mow them. You have to pull them up and get rid of them. And it takes time. So I went and weeded like a half acre of grass. Bending down, pulling out, and there were so many weeds. The next day, it was like I had done nothing but deadlifts all day the day before. My hamstrings were so sore. Like, I just annihilated my hamstrings. Was doing all of that bending down, weeding work, that stoop labor, because my body just wasn't used to it. It's like, man, I was uncomfortable to sit. So yeah, you can get exercise in all kinds of weird ways that you don't think about, right? Like, if you ever spend time like hoeing a garden, you're like, man, my back hurts. Yeah, you got some exercise, right? How do I avoid brain fog? Yes. Okay, I talked about that. Yes. Glad I was finally able to catch you streaming. Lately, I've had this strong urge to create something. Tired of just sitting around. I'm looking to make music and art, but starting can be difficult. The last thing I'll say about brain fog is sometimes it could be a nutritional thing. Maybe you need to see a doctor. You could have a vitamin B deficiency. They give you a vitamin B shot. I've talked to multiple people like, I was feeling like this, and the doctor's like, you're low on vitamin B. You're really low, and they gave him a vitamin B shot, and he was like, wow! All of a sudden everything's clear, and I can think clearly. It's like, yeah, vitamin B is in a lot of your food. Eat meat and prosper. I think like B12, they got like a B12 shot. So it could be something like that. It could be nutritional. Cut the carbs or up the carbs, right? I have a high carb diet. And I don't have brain fog with a high carb diet, but I know some people do. I know some people, they're like, I went on a low carb diet, but like, I can't think straight. Your brain is a sugar factor, is a sugar eater. You got to have some sugar for your brain. Some people are fine with it. They don't notice it. But for me, man, I got to have the carbs. I can't digest fat very well. I have a gallbladder problem. So a high fat diet will be horrific for me. I can't do it. It's got to be low fat. Lower fat. Glad I was finally able to catch you streaming. Well, thanks for being here, Takun. Lately, I've had the strong urge to create something. Tired of just sitting around. I'm looking to make music and art, but starting can be difficult. Yep, it really can be. So, some advice for starting. We're really talking about the drafting phase of writing. You can start with anything as far as art goes. You can start with a drawing course, and then whatever skills you pick up from that, as you get exposed to more things in the writing course, then you can be like, oh, I'm interested in doing this, or I'm sorry, a drawing course. I want to draw stuff that's like this, and then you can go find tutorials on that and just practice. Main thing is, whatever you want to pursue, just practice it every day, and you'll start to develop more artistic goals as you go. An idea of like, oh, I want to make art that's like this. I want to make a comic that's like this. I want to make an album like this. You start to come up with more concrete artistic goals. But start with just the little things. Start with practicing and learning the things that you are interested in. Maybe that's manga, right? Maybe you're like a guy who likes manga. Just get some instructional stuff on how to draw manga and start working on it. Zedul, I have a limit of 3 cups in the morning. That's a lot. I used to drink a full pot, but man, that will give you acid reflux when you're my age. That's a 3 cups seems like my dad used to have a whole pot of coffee like every day. That'd be a lot even for me. What's your schedule or live streaming? Every Wednesday around 6:45 right now to 7. Or going to about 8 or 8:30, depending on how I feel that day. And then I usually stream on Saturday afternoons. I didn't this time because I was in Dallas or getting ready to go to Dallas for the eclipse. So yeah, that's my usual streaming schedule. I might want to increase that as time goes on to do more live stuff, like live music and live writing. Maybe more during the week. I don't know. We'll see. I've considered like live streaming everything, like all my work. Like whenever I'm working, I'm live streaming. I've considered doing that, but it's like, that's a performative act. It's a performative act. And I don't want all of my writing stuff to be performative because I want it to be more introspective. I want to be able to stop and be like, I'm going to think about this part and go walk away and get a snack or go pet the cat or something, In World War II, the Germans gave their soldiers a miracle drug called Pervitin that allowed them to march tirelessly and go without sleep. Today, it's known as methamphetamine, otherwise known as Disoxin. Yes, it is a very popular ADHD medication that they give to children. Disoxin, you can look it up. Now, there's 2 different, what are these? Not esters, but like, there's a left-facing molecule and a right-facing methamphetamine molecule. It's one of those, the less potent one. But yes, you can get methamphetamine at the store. Adds weeding to leg day routine. Yeah, it was just the volume, it's just the volume of doing it. Bending down, picking stuff up, having to go all the way down to the ground and pull stuff out. And the quickest way to do that is just to bend over, because I'm going all the way down the yard, right? It's not like, oh, let me find a weed. It's like there's weeds, and I'm just like going back and forth, weeding, up and down. If you're not used to running and you go run and your legs are sore the next day, like, what happened? It's like, dude, you ran. Or like you're used to running flat and then you get on a treadmill and do an incline and you're like run on the incline and the next day your calves are destroyed. Those novel stimulus definitely can do a lot of work, For me, it started as a way to attract women, but now it's just a habit. Women are not into looks as much as men think. I think that they are more into looks than men will ever want to admit, but they're not just into looks. And so people don't take women as a whole thing. They're trying to look at women the way they look at men, which is like as like an ad hoc collection of reactions. And that's not women, right? So if you want to attract women with your looks, you basically need to be a 10. And like, if you're not it's like women will be like, you got to be 10, 9, anything 8 or below they think is ugly, pretty much. It's really hard to be an attractive man. It requires so much effort to be on that level. You have to have an absolutely perfect diet and work out and all that kind of stuff in order to be like really attractive. And that's where it's mostly low body fat, right? But it's really hard to do that. So most men can't do that. They try to compete in other ways. Let me get to know the woman, and she might like my personality, might like my career, other things about me, right? Things like that. I think women are really into looks, but not in the way men are, because men are just looking for the best thing that they can get. So men, a guy who's like a 9 will take a 6 out, take a 5 out. No problem. Won't even think twice about it. Oh, she's cute. I guess let's go out. Women aren't that way. They're more selective. It's about selection and rejection. So you ever hear about women getting stuck on their highest setting? Is like they go out with a guy who's really attractive, and then that's their standard from then on. Is like, I deserve men who are this attractive, and it's like, well, you might have to lower those standards to get the other things you want, right? If you want a guy who's like stable and like not abusive, or who really likes you and who you have things in common with. You know what I mean? Oh, Pat, yeah, I was in Dallas. It wasn't for that long. I was only there for like 24 hours. We wanted to go earlier. It would have been nice to hang out. I'll be up again maybe next month. We'll see. Because I didn't get to see my Uncle Chuck. He lives out in Lake Texoma. I wanted to go see him. He wants me to go hog hunting, But we were there I was at my cousin's house, and then my wife was like, after the eclipse, my wife was like, I really want to go home. I was worried about home. It's a good thing because we had this storm that just like blew water into like 3 of our rooms. Really sucks. Anyway. But yeah, that's my thing. Is like, yeah, if you can look more attractive, you'll probably get a lot of advantages in this world. It's probably worth the effort. Yeah. Modafinil is different to meth. Pretty good. Might be. Let's talk about drafting. Yeah. Most women do not even register that most men exist. Yeah, not people. Right? It's like they're ghosts. It's like they're not even there. You have to, and this is the whole thing about like pickup artist stuff. And it's been years since I ever like personally interacted with this, because I've been married for 10 years at this point. Right? And so I was with my wife for several years before I was married to her. But, pickup artist stuff was big when I was in Vegas, like in 2011, 2012. So about 12, 13 years ago. And the whole thing about pickup artist stuff is like, if you're putting all your effort into, I got to have a perfect appearance before I go to the club, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage, because the trick is to get the woman to know you, and then your attractiveness level goes up, right? It's getting the woman to pay enough attention to you that she gets to know you, and then she likes you better. If you're just purely on looks, you've got to be like a 10. You've got to be the top best looking guy in the room. And women are very comparative, right? Men think they'll see a room full of women and they'll consider all of them acceptably attractive, pretty much. Women aren't that way. They'll find the most attractive man, and that's the only attractive guy because he's more attractive than all the other men. It's the same thing with height, right? It's not that women want a man who's taller than them. They want a man who seems tall. So a man who's like taller than other men. So if you're the tallest guy in the room, you're tall. So sometimes I'm tall. Other times I'm really not tall at all. I think I was 6'2" last time they measured me. So that's tall-ish. But those guys are like 6 foot. So most of the guys, like if I'm in a room with an actual tall guy, it's like I'm the short guy. You know, so if women are into height, are they going to look at me? No, they're going to look at my friend who's 6'5". Even though he's just a couple inches taller than me, it's like, that's the tall guy. Yeah, I'm still like a foot taller than you are though, right? You know, oh, thank you for the super chat, Sign Engraver. What's up? Hope the day's going well. It's a tough day. Had a big, giant thunderstorm. Had part of the roof cut off for a porch renovation, and got water all in my walls. So a big portion of my house is just ruined right now. Floors are ruined, walls are ruined, ceilings ruined. Whole room was under like an inch of water. It's gonna be annoying to deal with for sure. Luckily, this side of the house that I'm on is good, so we could keep working. I have a fold-out couch, so if we can't sleep in my master bedroom, is water dripping from the ceiling, like bad. I can sleep on the couch. We have like a fold-out king-size couch, so it's good. It's all right. Sorry about the house. I appreciate that. I have tunnel vision, can't look people in the eye. Just force yourself to do it, right? I want to learn your daily Microsoft Word setup and how one start typing. Yes. There's nothing special about Microsoft Word setup. Let's look at some documents. So anyway, that's my thing about women and attractiveness. If your game is like, I'm going to be as attractive physically, you want to be physically attractive. So your game is like, I'm going to be the most attractive guy in the room. It's like, good luck. It's tough. The secret to most of the pickup artist stuff, and this isn't, you don't have to use this as a pickup artist, by the way, guys. It's just a thing, is that women are very cautious with men, and that's a survival instinct. It's not like they're just bad for that. It's like men are dangerous, so you need to be cautious with them. It's to get the woman to know you, and as she gets to know you and asks you personal questions, your attractiveness level will go up because you go from being a dangerous stranger to a familiar protector. You can use this with your writing too, guys. And keep in mind, I always have to point this out. Whenever I talk about in general, I'm not talking about in specific. It's like, well, my wife, it's like, it doesn't matter, right? We're just talking about general things about the way people kind of generally act. And there's a million different little exceptions to that. The group is different from the individual. Individuals are individuals, and tendencies of people to act a certain way has no bearing on how individuals act or perceive things. Individuals can be totally different from that, right? I saw something on Twitter earlier. Someone posted a thing. It's like, my husband broke down crying, and I found it unattractive and didn't want to comfort him. And there were people like, women are so bad. Can't believe they can't let a guy cry. It's like, well, there's something about what she said, which is the way he cried really turned me off and made me want to get away from him. It's because he was being emotionally incontinent. That's actually frightening for women. A lot of men don't realize that because they're big and women are small. But like, here's a big guy who could beat you up, and he's like losing control of himself. That's scary. That's an actual danger. That's like a danger zone thing. So women want to be privy to your thoughts and your emotions. They don't want you to lose control of yourself and start blubbering, crying, or throwing a fit. That's scary, right? You don't want to throw a tantrum like a 4-year-old. That's not only inappropriate, it's frightening for a woman. So just keep that in mind, right? I wish men had the same standards about women that they have about men. That's interesting. It's an interesting thought. You know, interesting thought. Got a little lag on the stream here. Okay. Let's pull up the pull up a document. Okay, so I did a planning document, and we'll just we'll start with a draft for that. Why not? All right, I have it here. It says medieval fantasy outline. Let's take a look at the outline. This is like kind of like a little fairy tale outline. Not quite like Lord Dunsany, but I don't know. More like Lloyd Alexander, maybe? Oh, let me get this. Does this look correct? All right. I think this looks correct. Let me slide this over a bit. Okay. Give me a little bit more room here. And can I... Sorry, I'm just adjusting the screen so that it looks a little better. Okay. Here we go. Let's turn on this light. All right, here's our medieval fantasy planning document. There we go. All right, so we have a setting, characters. We have a list of characters. We have a basic plot event sequence, right? I could put this in my little fantasy world if I want. I could put this in my own little fantasy world. I'm not sure where I'd put it. Give me a second here. Let me come up with like a cool country. I'm going to use Lotharia because I haven't used them yet. I'm going to use a country called Lotharia. So I'm going to write down a couple details here. Okay, yeah. And we have some cities. I have a map here. It's from Moonsong, so I'm going to pop it up here. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, Jas, Cispara, Varshan. I think Cispara is like the capital. So, or Spisara. I don't know where I came up with that name. Here we go. We'll have some mountains in the south and the some mountains here. South and the, what is this, east. So I'm imagining, a little fantasy land here. Farstrand and Jas. Okay. Whatever. We'll make that the capital. Spisara. That's the main that we need. Okay. We got most of our details we need. Let's start a new document. Because someone was like, I want your settings for everything. So I'll show it to you. When I draft, I daydream about my story for the longest time. I try to dream about it too. I keep a notepad in my bed so I can wake up and write things down. I wouldn't go that far for me. I don't do that usually. But I think about it. It's on my mind. Here, let's open a new document. Okay. My documents are always set up the same. 8.5 by 11. Manuscript format for me is single space Times New Roman. That puts out every one page is 500 words. Really easy to keep track of. Okay? Really easy to keep track of. See, there's a nice page. You can see the page here. We can come up with a title. We can get rid of the title. I tend to come up with titles later. And by the way, Athelred, I was thinking of Athelred the Unready, who was Alfred the Great's older brother. Aethelred the Unready. Is that it? Yeah. Aethelred the Unready, who was Alfred's older brother. So I think that works, but I'm going to keep Aethelred because I think it's funny. It's just it'll be like a funny little Easter egg there. I daydream all the time, which is part of where I get story ideas. I'm almost real life Walter Mitty. I don't know what. Oh, Walter Mitty. It sounds familiar. I'm imagining the actor from Monk, but I don't know. All right. Let's look at our outline. Exposition section. Alfred's mother is very ill and infirm. Alfred's father disappears and is presumed dead. Since he's a boy, Edward, his older cousin, becomes regent. Edward is a tyrant who oppresses the people. Alfred's mother becomes so ill she cannot speak. Okay. What do we want our first line to be? We want to introduce our first character, Alfred. It's always hard to begin a story. Like what you want your first line to be. In a hole there lived a hobbit. Men in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. What's his mother's name? We need a name for the mother. I was going to name his father Pepin, like Pepin the Short. We need like another... I would like another English name. What's an English name? Someone give me an English name. Amber the Witch, because that sounds like a stripper name. Let me just look up. I'm going to look up some Anglo-Saxon names. Man, Alfred's dad had a great name, Aethelwulf. It's a great Germanic name, Aethelwulf. Alfred was married to Elswith. He had a daughter named Aethelflide. Aethelgifu. It was an abbess. Aethelward. These are funny names. I love them. Old female names are funny. Old male names too. It's like Alfred. It seems so common now, but it was like just a different kind of name. Aethelred the Unready is King of Wessex. Elizabeth, Eliza. Elizabeth is I thought you named her after Amber Heard. Amber Heard is still a stripper name, you know. I knew like 2 Ambers in Vegas and they were both strippers, I think. Yeah. Eliza. Oh, let's do, because I'm thinking of like, we could do Gwendolyn or something. That's a good name. Gwendolyn. Let's do Gwendolyn. It's just a good English name. Alfred's mother. Good Germanic name. We could do all Germanic, Anglo-Saxon kind of names. Work for this story. All right, let's hop over here. Oh, what was her name? Gwendolyn. All right. I need a good word besides wicked, so I'm thinking of one like spiteful. Spiteful and jealous. There we go. We got the conflict in sentence 1. Gwendolyn, the fair queen of Lotharia, would die, and the spiteful and jealous Edward would become king. And there was nothing that her son Alfred could do about it. Nobody knew what foul, or no, what it smote. What was the king's name? Pepin. Instead of a clear summer night, let's go a foggy autumn night. Your unit seems shorter than my default word. What's your daily Mimus word setting? I'll show it to you. We'll go to modify. Okay. So this is, I just call it normal style. Times New Roman, 12-point font. We go to paragraph. First line indent by 1/4 of an inch. Now, I used to do half inch. Half inch is probably more appropriate for most manuscript formats. But the reason I do 1/4 inch is it means I can just change the paper size when I want to anything else I want. For any other format besides 8.5 by 11, you're probably going to use 1/4 inch indents. Even when I published books in 8.5 by 11 format, I still used 1/4 inch indents. You just don't need that much indent. Okay. If you want paperback format stuff, I have videos on that. But that's just the regular format. I like Times New Roman. It's very legible, very easy to read. It lets me know exactly how many words are on the page, that kind of thing. Nobody knew what had smote. Maybe it is smitten. I like smote, but be what had smitten, what smote. Yeah, it would be had smitten or smote. I don't like had smitten. I like smote. Nobody knew what smote the beautiful queen. In her prime, let's add that. do you make it the default word setting? So you go there and you just rename it and make sure that when you hit this, if you hit OK, you want new documents based on this template, and then every new document is going to have that as its default. So that's what I do. The correlation between looks maxing and autistic behavior makes a lot of sense because such people have difficulties comprehending human emotion beyond physical desire. That's a good point. This is the thing a lot of guys don't get, that it's like, how do you pick up on chicks? Like, first of all, I'm not an expert and I've been out of the game way longer, and online dating screws everything up. But there's more to it than just like having a certain hairstyle. That's like, people focus entirely on the first layer. And that's the thing, is like, for your like your online dating thing, you probably have to looks max, because that first filter is so stiff that it's really hard to get through. But if you are in an environment where you are meeting a woman, like it's maximal looks, it starts to become mixed in with all the other things that she cares about. It's like, do you like the same things as her? Does she like the way you dress? Does she like the way you talk? I've had women say, like, I love the sound of your voice. I'm like, thank you. That's an odd thing for me to say, but it's actually not that odd. I love the sound of my wife's voice. She has a beautiful voice, a beautiful speaking voice too. It's perfect. But anyway, they start being attracted to other things about you. Oh, I love how you like this thing, whatever it is. So it's interesting. Adelinda is a great name. That's a great name. I'm gonna go with Gwendolyn, because it makes me think of who did Arthur marry? Didn't it start with a G? Was it like Gwen something? Oh my gosh. Am I spacing on this? Arthur's wife. Guinevere. I knew it was some kind of Gwen. Guinevere. What a hussy. Guinevere. That's right. I'm a little tired. She was unconscious every day save for the hour of twilight, in which her eyes would open, and while the light failed, she could eat and drink, though she never spoke. I spell catatonic. Catatonic. There we go. going to give a guy a name here. The man took hold instead of saying grabbed or grasped. You can say took hold. Now we get to give Edward a physical description. I'm going to make him very ugly because he's a villain. So, There's two kinds of ways to make a character ugly. There's the many ways, right? Make him fat or make him gangly. So it depends what kind of personality you want to impart, right? So think about the 7 deadly sins for your villain. So I'm going to describe, where is he? Edward. He's very evil, sadistic, and hates puppies. So his deadly sin is, of course, going to be greed. He should probably have lust or gluttony in there, right? If you're a glutton, you're going to be fat, right? If you have vainglory, you're going to be obsessed with your own beauty and be prissy and stuff like that. I'm imagining him as being somewhat rat-like and gangly. Not really fat. But I'm going to give him like a beer belly. You know? Yeah. Curly brown beard. So he's like Joe Dirt. It's like Joe Dirt here. Skinny fat. Yeah, we'll give him skinny fat. You can also make him grotesquely muscular. So if he's grotesquely muscular, that would go a lot with wrath, right? I'm making Bartholomew like the muscle and Edward like the gangly rat-like man. All right, so we wrote 500 words already. Look at that. Okay. We'll write a few more. And lower half of his long upper lip. All right. That, you know, Imagining he's like rubbing his face, you know. Wispy beard. I like wispy. Alright, so what are we getting from like him? Okay, he's like rat-like. He can't grow a full beard, so he's kind of like, you know, low test. I want him to have a beer belly though. He's literally me. How do I describe the bad guy in a sci-fi setting? Just describe how he is. Just describe how he looks. Describe who he is. It's the same as any setting, really. You mean rumors you started? He's already going to call himself the king, right? But we hear the rumors. It sounds like we hear the rumors. Yes. Clicky keyboards help with accuracy. Call it the Landsmeet. I might call it the Senate. You know. What's the other name of that? I'm going to come up with another character here. I already have an eighth already. I don't want too many of these. Give him like another name. Not sure what to give him a name with. Call him Bergred. That's a good one. No, there's a Mercian nobleman from this time named Musil. What a good name. I'll just steal that name. It's even better. His wicked smile returned. All right, we've written 1,000 words. And we totally have this exposition section knocked out. Put this in a new line. This enraged Alfred. Apparently I can't spell Alfred. All right, there we go. That's chapter 1. What are we going to call this? We need to figure out a title. I don't have a title. The Whipping Boy by Sid Fleischman. Yeah, this is something that, I mean, you see stuff like this in like a number of classic works. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I mean, like, there's stuff like The Man in the Iron Mask, right? This idea of a rightful king kind of displaced. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of a story. I mean, it's in like Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. Stephen King uses this even, right? It's a really common setup. But you know, we've got the protagonist and the antagonist and the conflict in the same chapter, as well as the setup and why the protagonist has to act to solve the problem. So that's what we've got going on in this first chapter. I do need a title, and it could, you know, like you could just do like a generic fantasy title, right? The blank of blank. The blank of blank. That's how you title fantasy stuff. It's the blank of blank. Like the Whipping Boy. Whipping Boy sounds good. But if we're going to do fantasy, it'd be like the blank of blank. We'll call it the... I don't know what to call it. Yeah, I can't think of a name right now. I'm bad at titles, so I just have to, like, because it's so important, right? You always think it's so important. You have to, like, mule, I'm gonna go over it. What am I gonna call it? You know, I feel like I have good titles for my other books. I gotta have something good for this one. You know. I like the word twilight. I'm going to use the word twilight. Because I like the word twilight, and I've already used it as like a setup in here, so. Oh, yeah, that's, I'm like, why do I have a Wacom pen sitting here? I'm like, oh yeah, I had the Wacom tablet. I was going to draw a map using the computer, and then I didn't do that. I might do a hand-drawn map for this next book, Something Twilight. Like Sorcerer's Blood was the last one. I don't know. We're going to call it Twilight something. We can't just call it Twilight. Like Dragons of Autumn's Twilight. It's a good fantasy word. Twilight Force. Call it the King of Twilight. Call it the King of Twilight. Or the Prince of Twilight. Let's call it the Prince of Twilight. Prince of Twilight. That'll work. We can always change it. Save it in the cloud. This is saved in the cloud, and that's good. All right. So we did a draft here. You can see what it's like to begin drafting. Okay. All I have to really do here is follow this. So we did this. This would be chapter 1, right? And so for chapter 1, we're going to put the title here. Prince of Twilight. That's the title. Right here, we're going to go chapter 1. And we're going to do heading 1. Now we can alter this, so we can modify this. And we can do, I like Trajan Pro 3 for this. And we're going to make it maybe 24. Then we're going to go to paragraph. First line, we're going to do none. We're going to go before, we're going to make it like 48 points. And after, we're going to make it like 18 points. And single spacing, we are going to do it center justification and hit OK. Now we have a great chapter title here, nice and big. It would look pretty good. And if we feel like that's too big, you can always just hit this and modify it, and we can shrink it down to like 18. That's a little more subtle for that. Okay. All right, that's good. Save. Then we can do chapter 2 another time. And if we're following this little format here, we did all the exposition basically in this first chapter, which is good, very efficient. We're going to have him escape. So the next thing will be, and you can write, sometimes I'll write this in, it'd be like chapter 2. It would be like Alfred escapes with the help of his friend Athelready, who comes upon the carriage by accident. There we go. So I have this, Athelready is also captured by coincidence when he tries to stop Edward's soldiers. So we can have that in there, right? But then they're going to escape from it. So I figured if Athelready helps him escape, and maybe it's like we could have some kind of thing, because he's kind of incompetent. He decides to fight the soldiers, and it's really bad, but Alfred manages to get out and like kill Bart or something, or like knock Bart out, and they escape, and they need to get the irons off his wrist, and that's where they're going to meet Victoria, who's going to help him because she finds it very interesting. Okay, so there's our setup. We're good to go on that. I think that's going to be it for today. Move on, have some dinner. Hope you guys have had fun. I really appreciate everybody joining me. I do appreciate the super chats. The chit chat about men and women is fun too, you know. Yeah. I do like the name Adelinda. That's a really good name. I'm going to stick with Gwendolyn for now, but maybe it'll be Adelinda. I don't know. It's a good name. So anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you all next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, let me link the Patreon stuff. I don't have April's book up yet, but I will have it up soon. So you can hop on Patreon. You get a free book every month. You can join the Discord. Same thing with the Ko-Fi. I'll just put that in there too. You can also get copies of all of these live writes on Substack. I'll have them on all these platforms. So whatever I wrote tonight, it's going to go up on Substack. If you're a paid Substack person, you'll get that, right? And I need to figure out a way to like get books to Substack people. So I may use BookFunnel or something for that. For like everybody who's a Substack subscriber, I'll just give some free books away, like tomorrow or something. I don't know. Yeah, so I'll have them up as posts that are for members only on all those sites, and maybe I'll do it in YouTube too. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to do it. So anyway, guys, take it easy. I'll see you all next time, and have a great day.